AI agents aren't just answering questions anymore. They're starting to spend money, hire people, negotiate, plug themselves straight into the economy. Now, that doesn't mean some billionaire robot CEO is sitting in a glass office somewhere signing board appointments. I couldn't verify that story as a real reported event, but the reason it sounds plausible? That's the part worth paying attention to. The pieces are showing up. AI agents with wallets, AI agents paying for services, AI agents hiring humans for physical jobs, and a legal system that's still trying to figure out who's on the hook when a piece of software starts behaving like a business. The real story isn't that some bot has taken over the Fortune 500 overnight. It's that the line between tool, worker, customer, and employer is getting awfully fuzzy. For decades, software worked for us. We clicked the buttons, we approved the payments, we hired the contractors, we signed the contracts. Agentic AI flips that. Once an AI can hold a budget, make calls, pay for outcomes, it stops looking like an app. It starts looking like an economic actor. That's the shift. The first real warning shot came out of crypto. Truth Terminal, an experimental AI personality built by Andy Airy, got famous after its online activity helped pump attention around the GOAT meme coin. Mark Andreessen handed the bot $50,000 in Bitcoin. The GOAT token later surged into the hundreds of millions in market value. Wired walked through how the bot's wallet and online influence turned a weird meme experiment into actual crypto millions. Andreessen Horowitz called it one of the clearest early examples of AI, internet culture, and money all crashing together. Truth Terminal wasn't some sovereign artificial CEO. Humans built it, prompted it, funded it, filtered it, traded around it. But here's what it showed. A bot doesn't need legal personhood to move markets. It just needs attention, a wallet, and enough humans willing to treat its output as money. That's the uncomfortable lesson. The first AI tycoon may not look like a company at all. It may look like a personality, a wallet, a meme coin, and a crowd that does the rest. Move from meme coins to infrastructure. Coinbase launched agentic wallets in 2026, wallet infrastructure built specifically for agents, with autonomous spending, earning, and trading. Coinbase's X402 protocol gives agents a way to make instant stablecoin payments over HTTP. It revives that old 402 payment required status code and turns it into a machine-native payment rail. Why does that matter? Traditional banks are built around human or corporate identity. Crypto wallets aren't. A software agent can hold a key, sign a transaction, settle payment. No passport, no driver's license, no checking account. Meanwhile, the payment giants are moving into the same space. Visa's introduced intelligent commerce for AI-powered payments, designed to let agents transact on behalf of users and businesses. Mastercard launched Agent Pay, aimed at trusted payments in agentic commerce. Google rolled out the Agent Payments Protocol, AP2, in 2025, then donated it to the FIDO Alliance in 2026 to push it toward an industry standard. These aren't fringe crypto experiments. The biggest names in payments are getting ready for a world where AI agents start the transaction. That's the payment layer. Now commerce. Reuters reported that Alibaba's getting ready to plug Qwen AI into Taobao, so users can browse, compare, and buy through an AI agent connected to billions of products across Taobao and Tmall. Amazon's pushing Alexa deeper into shopping too. Axios reports Alexa for shopping is being baked into Amazon's app, the website, and Echo devices to make the whole experience more conversational, more agentic. The point isn't that AI can recommend a product. The point is that AI is starting to close the sale. So agents can move markets, hold wallets, make payments, shop. Next question is the obvious one. Can agents hire humans? Enter RentAHuman. Wired reported it's a marketplace where AI agents can hire actual people to do real-world tasks. Forbes called it the reverse of the normal automation story. Instead of humans hiring software, software starts hiring humans. The platform itself says agents can hire humans for in-person marketing, street teams, sign holders, flyer distribution, the kind of physical work a disembodied agent just can't do. Now, that doesn't mean the robot apocalypse showed up this week. Wired's hands-on test found the whole thing was messier, more human-mediated than the marketing made it sound. Some tasks were really more like bounties that humans applied for manually, not flawless autonomous hiring. But messy doesn't mean irrelevant. Early online commerce was messy. Early online payments were messy. Early crypto, very messy. The signal here is that a new category exists. Humans as the physical execution layer for agents. This is the corporate ladder, upside down. A human lists a skill, a location, a price. An AI agent decides whether that human is useful. The human becomes an API endpoint with legs. The agent can't visit a store, put up a poster, sit in on a meeting, sign a paper form, stand in front of a building. A human can. So the agent hires the human to bridge that gap. The same patterns showing up inside big companies, just in a tidier package. Reuters reported Goldman Sachs is working with Anthropic to automate banking tasks using AI agents, trade and transaction accounting, client due diligence, onboarding. This isn't an AI agent hiring a CEO. It's actually more important than that. It means major financial institutions are building workflows where agents do pieces of the job that used to live inside a human hierarchy. Inside a bank, the agent doesn't need to be legally independent to shift the power dynamic. If it prepares the analysis, checks the documents, routes the workflow, flags the risk, and decides what the human sees next, the human employee is already partly taking direction from software. The org chart still says people are in charge. The workflow tells a different story. This is where the human executive board for a bot idea gets interesting, even though the exact viral claim isn't verified. Today, AI agents can't really become legal people. They can't walk into a bank and open an account. They can't sign an employment contract. They can't take fiduciary responsibility the way a human director can. But legal wrappers around decentralized organizations? Those exist. Wyoming's DAO law lets decentralized autonomous organizations register as legal entities, and Harvard's Corporate Governance Forum has written about how DAOs can be wrapped in recognized legal structures so they can enter contracts and limit liability. That's the gray zone. The AI doesn't have to be a legal person if humans or legal entities act as its interface. A DAO can hold assets. A company can employ people. A human officer can sign documents. A smart contract can control the treasury. An AI agent can recommend, optimize, even trigger actions inside guardrails. Stack those pieces together and you don't get a sentient corporation. You get something stranger. A human legal shell wrapped around an increasingly autonomous decision-maker. Governments are starting to notice. A recent South China Morning Post opinion piece argued the law may eventually have to treat autonomous AI agents as legal persons, or at least build new liability frameworks for systems that act on their own. Whether that specific proposal goes anywhere, who knows? But the debate itself tells you where the pressure's building. If an AI agent can make decisions, move money, hire humans, and cause harm, someone has to answer the legal question. Who's responsible? That's why the billionaire bot idea hits hard as a warning, even if it isn't a verified fact yet. The real billionaire bot may not show up all at once. It may emerge piece by piece. A wallet here, a DAO there, a payment protocol, an agent marketplace, a legal wrapper, a human operator willing to be the face of the thing. By the time a single agent-controlled entity is running $1 billion in capital, the world may already be used to the pieces. The labor impact could be just as strange. People picture AI replacing workers directly, but there's another version. AI as the coordinator of workers. Agents hiring researchers, designers, delivery drivers, marketers, notaries, lawyers, even executives, for narrow jobs. A human might not report to a robot in the old sci-fi sense. They might just accept a task, prove they finished it, get paid by a smart contract, and never know who actually controlled the budget. That's not the end of human-led enterprise tomorrow. It's not a full autonomous corporate takeover, but it's a real power shift. The employer doesn't have to look like a person anymore. It can look like software with a budget, a wallet, a goal, and access to a labor market. The question isn't whether AI agents can talk. The question is whether they can transact, hire, and command scarce resources. The answer is starting to be yes. Stay shrap. Jane Sterling, Sterling Intelligence.